Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. I thought I'd come on earlier, seeing as we're starting to get into the realms of, do we really like this Copilot thing or not? So I'll get started. Welcome, everybody. We will kick off in a few minutes. I'll be joined by Connor. Lovely to see you all here today, whether it's morning, evening, or afternoon. Yes, it is Monday morning, Valerie. Oh, bless you. You've not been well. I hope you're feeling better. It is. There's a lot to take in that's happening right now. It's quite an interesting time for the digest because it gives us something really good to talk about and anchor to. We'll try and give you a nice gentle morning introduction to the wonders that are Copilot and all that's around it. So we'll get going in a few minutes. Feel free to say hi in chat. Here's Connor.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. You've saved me from myself. I was going to go into babbling. It's Monday morning. It's not. It's Monday afternoon, but yeah.
You're very good at babbling.
I am. Yeah, it's what I do. Chief babbler.
Chief babbler.
So it's an art I've learned over the years. Some people call it filling. I like to call it babbling because it's a better word. Has anyone else got a better word for babbling?
Thought you had a bottle of wine then for a second.
No, that does.
Just I call that from the bottle.
No, I call that babble enhancer. I mean, honestly, after a glass of wine, my babbling becomes almost another level. I could babble for England. I agree. Connor does look very. I love your backdrop, Connor. It's not only is it symmetrical, but it's really nice colours.
Had enough of that light. It keeps changing colour, and I can't stop it.
I have noticed throughout the day, it's turned itself on and off a few times, hasn't it? It's almost like you're being watched.
Yeah, I have a feeling that when I bought it, I think I've set something up, and now all of a sudden, there you go, it's gone off again now.
There you go. Maybe we could set a quiz for the person that notices it get turned off or a particular colour. You win a prize.
I know, it's just come back on it. I don't know what's wrong. I keep setting. I've got an app which changes all the colours of all my lights. And I set it, and then a day later, it just decides to do its own thing.
Yeah.
So I have no idea.
I like the yeah, no, I agree. It's not quite symmetrical, but I mean, in terms of my backdrop, it's quite symmetrical because, as you'll see, it's relatively haphazard. There's things everywhere. So Connor's the neat one. There you go. It's off again. But we're not here to talk about your lights, are we, Connor? I don't think.
No. What are we here to talk about?
That's a very good question. If it's your first time to us and our weekly digest, a very warm welcome. If you've been with us before, you know you'll get a mix of babble, fact, perhaps some demonstrations. But this week, my guitar, yeah. Well, so yeah. Before I go into that, that's my favourite thing. It marries up with the stuff that's there, which is AC/DC. It's a copy of AC/DC's Angus Young's Gibson SG. But anyway, so thank you for that. Yeah, a mix of chat, a mix of information. It generally is based around the daily digest that we hope you all get in your inbox daily and get good value out of. If you don't, it's free. You can get it every day. It summarises really good stuff in the Microsoft world that we think will be of interest to those of us that are invested in it. But we try and sort of pick out topics usually. But I think for this week, the topic for us, Connor, is pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? It sort of stood up by itself and waved its hand around a lot and said, "Hey, talk about me." So go on, I'll let you announce the topic for today.
So yeah, today we're going to be talking about Copilot and what Copilot actually means, because I think well, the one big kind of thing is that it means a lot of things. There's a lot of services that Microsoft are kind of announcing, or they're announcing Copilot in many different forms. And I think after their event, they did a showcase event, I believe, beginning of the week, or it's end of last week, sorry.
Thursday
Yeah.
at 1 p.m. EDT. Always get my times wrong. Sort of out of the blue, wasn't it, Connor? It wasn't like massively announced, was it? It was relatively covert, if I can say that.
Yeah, and I think one thing to appreciate was we know that Copilot's been coming for a long time, and we've heard about it in its different aspects. But yeah, I think this event really did kind of showcase what they're kind of looking to bring to the table over the next kind of 3 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I mean, I had a rewatch of it this morning, just to kind of have a look at to see what is coming. And there's a lot of cool features that I think both myself and John are going to talk about today.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm just out of the just kind of a little bit out there, if anyone is actually interested in watching that event, if anybody remembers the watch parties that we used to do, I know we've not done one for quite some time, but I'd be interested in running a watch party to showcase that event. It was like a 58-minute video showcasing Copilot and what they're kind of bringing to the table. So if off the back of this session today anyone's interested in looking at that, then we can either share the link with you directly from Microsoft, or we can run a watch party and we can discuss things as and when they're being presented on the screen, so everyone kind of is on the same page a little bit. But we'll try our best to kind of sum up everything today that we've seen.
Yeah, I think that could be quite cool, Connor. It's a nice idea. Just out of interest, who just pop a yes or no. Did anybody watch the event? Love to know who actually watched it last Thursday, or even did you know about it? Were you aware of it? We live this every day, don't we? So we kind of became aware of it and thought we'll go and have a little look at it. And interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting. I've heard it described as a surprise. No, what was the phrase somebody used? I forget. I'll dig it out. But someone
like
described
a ghost conference or something.
No, it's like a surprise. That was it. A special event, and it was pitched around Surface devices and AI. That was all you really saw before the event, which I think sort of made a lot of people think, I don't really care about hardware. I'm not interested. But there was a lot of really good and interesting stuff there, wasn't there? That we'll go into, as you quite rightly say. Before we do, Connor, so how was last week for you? What's new for you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so again, for those that know my kind of ventures and have been kind of following what I've been doing over the last kind of couple of weeks, you know that I've been again still working on the component challenge. Made a little bit more progress with that. Hopefully going to get that available as soon as I can. Can't put a date on that, unfortunately, at the moment. But apart from that, obviously the poker build that we've been going through ran into a bunch of issues again last week. So I will be publishing that video probably just after this call, actually, today. So episode 3 will be available to go and watch. Again, it was a lot of discovery and exploration, more so than build. I think kind of off the back of that, I realised that maybe this isn't something that I can just go at on a live stream without any kind of prior knowledge as to what I'm doing. So yeah, I've spent a bit of time kind of over the weekend as well, just really kind of ironing out a few of the things which hopefully will make it a little bit more easier to follow come this Friday. So yeah, I've got big plans for the poke build this Friday that will hopefully kind of cement some of the issues that we ran into over the last 2 episodes.
I think we chatted about this earlier, didn't we? And I genuinely think that what you're demonstrating is probably the reality for most makers, citizen developers, in that you've got the framework in your head, and probably better than most people, you've got this like mental image, but you're hitting the hard bits up front, aren't you? And it's not easy. And sometimes you have to get like stuck into particular topics. So I think this is my perspective, it's quite a natural process that you're showcasing. And I personally always enjoy your sort of thought processes, and I know others do as well. So yeah, I think it's a cool event. I think if you get a chance, check it out on Fridays.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke this morning about the kind of the future of this series, the potential of this series, and I know that the people that were there on Friday, even though we didn't really build much, and a lot of it was trial and error, when I asked towards the end of the session, it seemed like everybody seemed quite happy with the outcome of the kind of learning process as well. And I don't want to kind of step away from that.
No.
I do and I don't. So I'd like to kind of,
for your own comfort and like security. It must be tough, Connor. I mean, honestly, you deal with it very well, but you've seen me on camera. I'd panic and flap. You don't panic and flap. You'd sort of sit back and think
try
about
not
things.
to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, over the kind of the progression of this this series, I think there are going to be some more explorative I can never say it, explorative
Go for it.
sessions, like we have done over the last two sessions that we've done, where we are just kind of figuring out things, and then a kind of during that kind of off week period, hopefully I'll do a little bit of kind of testing in the background, so I've got something to show when it comes to that Friday, the week after. So it'll be a kind of week of exploration, discovery, and hopefully a week more of kind of what the build is actually going to be and start actually getting hands-on and stuff. So I think that way we kind of keep the balance of both worlds there.
Yeah, I mean, you showed me where you went after Friday's session, and I think people who turn up on Friday have got a bit of a treat. I was blown away with it. I know you've changed your direction of design a little bit, but what you've done, I think, made sense to me, having not watched it on Friday. Although I did dip in a little bit, it's a really good solution to the kind of problems that you'll face when you're dealing with dynamically adding data to Power Apps. So yeah, check out that one. It's really good, really good.
Yeah, I think one of the big things was I think it was Jamie. He's not in the call today, I don't think. But yeah, he mentioned about potentially just shifting those kind of that lookup relationship around between the two tables, to kind of give you more of an easier way in to managing everything rather than using the kind of Dataverse relationships that they provide. And that's not to say that we can't maybe perhaps look at that in the future, but yeah, we're got a lot of build work coming up on Friday for the poker build, so you can go to the events calendar and RSVP for that if you are interested.
I'll pop a link in the next pause, Connor, because I think that's one of the things we also want to do in these weekly digests is, as community members, we're very mindful that people come from different places at different times. Some people spend lots of time with us, some people dip in and out. And so if you're struggling with anything in the academy, use this as an opportunity to dip in and say, hey guys, can you give me a hand here? If you're looking for a link, or you're looking for a topic, or you want some time with the coaches, give us a shout. You know, we can always help. So over the course of this, when I'm not talking, I'll pop a link into Connor's event on Friday, because I can't multitask. There you go, Connor's done it. Thank you, Connor. I can't multitask. I can't talk and click around. But yeah, so yeah, it's really good what you've been up to last week. I mean, you won't see this in the academy, but I've been another busy week last week. Again, another link we should probably showcase. An event took place last week. In fact, two events took place, didn't they, Connor? There was Ben's and Jennifer's, and both were fantastic. Both recordings available in the Platinum space. You can access those using a Platinum trial if you wish, or if you're a Platinum member, you can get access to them. But they were fantastic. I'm going to pick out Jennifer's particularly because I sort of sat in on that one and helped curate it. If you're struggling with inbox overwhelm, as many of us do, it's just given so many actionable tips, and she's got such a great way of describing how you can approach that problem. I know personally I've taken action based upon what she shared. They're not difficult things to do. It's not about having zero emails. It's about spending zero time with your brain processing emails and having systems to do that. Yeah, Linda, it was. I thought it was just brilliant. It's one of those tricks, those brain tricks with these collection of tips that just makes you go, oh, why didn't I do that all the time? It just saves time. So yeah, do have a look at that, and I'll dig out a link in a moment for that. Ben's was good as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that up on all of this security and kind of compliance and all of this sort of stuff. It's never been my kind of forte, if you like. But yeah, I think what I did realize from his session was that everything in Microsoft seems to have this insane, crazy matrix of different ways that you can secure things down, whether that be inside of kind of Microsoft 365 is in a general sense, or whether we're looking at kind of the Power Platform, especially from my own experiences dealing with security and role-based access and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, when he was digging into kind of data loss protection in I think it's Microsoft Purview is what they call it now. I can't remember what it was called for, the Data Compliance Center. Yeah, there's so much stuff that you can configure and set up, and I think the one question that kind of I mean, like I say, I don't deal with this on a day-to-day, so it's not really something that I would look into too much. But one thing that does make me ask questions, I think, based off that session, is kind of where do you get started with the kind of administration process of kind of managing all of that stuff? Like, where do you kind of start with it? Because there are so many like menus and tabs and things to go through to set up for emails and the Power Platform and documents and all of this sort of stuff. It kind of, you definitely need a strategy going into it. You can't just kind of go at it with the sort of approach that I usually go at with Power Apps development.
Put some ingredients together, shake them up, and see what happens. I don't think security lends itself to that kind of approach, does it?
No.
Security and governance. I mean, that sort of leads on to the future, doesn't it? Because I know Ben's offered, and we hope to arrange this, but we're going to have a longer workshop format around exactly that question. I think, Connor, we need to look into that space for the members of the community. And I think we're eyeballing November to try and do something with Ben around that topic, I think, which, yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of, where do you start? I mean, there will be patterns and practices that people can and probably should follow, particularly in and around governance and security. So I think that's a really good one for us to go and explore. Be really interested in the chat. If people are interested in security, let us know. And then we've got more of a mind to go chasing that kind of content for you rather than the build content, which is what we do chase a lot of. Yeah, it was a good one. So I mean, just to mention again, while I'm thinking about future E stuff, and this is an offer for those of you on this call, actually. Yes, it's not an interest. It's weird. Security. I don't find it a fascinating topic, but it's so fundamentally needed. Yeah, be interested to know, Valerie, how we'd approach putting something on like this that would make you think, I'll go to that because I'd like to. So yeah, might have a chat with you about that. Sorry, yeah, but going into the future a little bit, I've been working on the Power Automate step up, which is now done. In my head, there's a big fanfare going off in the back of my head, but I know none of you have seen it yet. So I'm going to make an offer as part of today to invite 10 people to come and beta test it. Now, there is a little bit of a catch in that I'm going to ask you to fill in a little bit of feedback about what you're thinking around the academy, and I'm also going to have to just pick names out of a hat. But when I do, I'm going to ask you for your feedback about the Power Automate step up. And what I mean by that is we try and take people through learning the products in Microsoft 365 by getting hands-on. We like to learn by building. We have this concept of Blue: build it, learn it, use it, enhance it. We don't just want to chuck theory at you. We'd like to build courses that allow you to come out of them having learned the skills, but equally come out of them with a product that you can enhance, use, take away, use in your own business. So that's what the step up does. It's the second in a series for Power Automate. The first very much focuses on you know, the opportunities with Power Automate to do things very, very quickly and very simply, which is one of its strengths. But then it does go and offer you this incredible toolbox to automate different business processes. And I've picked one around expenses. Yeah, and I'll talk about it later, but I'm going to make an offer to see whether anyone would like to take part and just test it for free. It's not Azure based. Oh, sorry, Jag, I presume you're talking about security there. But yes, I'll do that afterwards. But should we get into the kind of the meat of today, Connor? Talk about Copilot. Should we get there?
Yeah, just on that kind of giveaway of 10 free entries for the Power Automate thing. I think as well, it's not just exclusive to Platinum members, that either.
No, correct.
So
I'd like to allow people to have a look at it, I mean, to be honest, if you've never touched any of our products or our training and you've never experienced us before, it gives you a good chance to get your hands on something, give it a go. But equally, I'm just going to open the door, and I'll explain more about how I'm going to do that in a minute, because there is a little bit of a catch, which is we'd like to ask you some information. But it's not much of a catch. It's like spend 10 minutes with us and you get a free course, which is quite nice. Yeah, cool. So Copilot, Connor, what did you describe it as at the start? What did Satya call it? I think you used a really good phrase. What was it? Let me find it.
a good phrase.
Euphoric change to computing. Yeah, you
Yeah,
should have used that.
I mean, Satya introduced this kind of this hour seminar thing. I don't really know what to call it. I don't know what we call it, do we?
It was a showcase. So it's a sales event,
showcase.
really. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's the Microsoft product marketing engine going.
Yeah, and I mean, he seemed very excited to kind of share everything that's going on over at Microsoft and some of the releases that are coming. And I think first of all, if it's all right, we could talk about the kind of the most prominent release, which is going to be available from tomorrow, or being rolled out from tomorrow, and that is Windows 11, Windows Copilot for Windows 11. So just to kind of, before we do go into that, I think just to put a kind of a date timestamp on everything. So the main dates that we've been told about are obviously the Windows Copilot, which is going to be available from tomorrow, being rolled out 26th of September. And we'll get into what Windows Copilot is and what you'll be able to do in there. And this, again, we can discover a bit more when we decide to pop on a watch party. But the other one as well, which we've been speaking about a lot, and you've probably heard mentioned, probably more so, and that is the Copilot for Microsoft 365. And I think that's not generally available until November the 1st.
That's right, yeah.
So you've got a couple of weeks to go until that.
Did you notice, Connor? I mean, I think this is a deliberate tactic, I'm guessing, to coin the phrase Copilot. We used to think about, and up until this point, I've thought about Copilot for Power Apps, Power Automate Copilot, Copilot for Word, but actually the branding of the event was, this is an event about Copilot. And then they drill into the various different aspects of it. And yes, you're absolutely correct. There's Microsoft 365 Copilot, and there's the Windows Copilot, but their branding is, I mean, the big phrase is an everyday AI companion, the thing that's ubiquitous, the thing that lives with us wherever we are. I think that's what I'm taking from this. They've got lots of opportunities for us to grab under this big umbrella, which I found quite a shift, actually.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I mean, if we're going to go into some of the kind of feature sets that they've announced, I think one of the big things which I'm more impressed with than I would probably use, and that is the new image generation with the DALL-E 3 model, or the DALL-E 3 model. I'm not sure if it's actually DALL-E 3 or DALL-E 3, or if that's just Satya's accent.
I'm going to go DALL-E. I don't know why. I don't think Doll. I don't know. I'd be interested. Doll or Dal? DALL-E. Dolly.
But yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the most impressive things I've seen in terms of any form of AI generation, or even just a tool that's been coded to specifically do what the DALL-E 3 code base is able to do. And that is, like I say, it's image generation. And we've seen probably that we can do things in things like Adobe Photoshop, and we can generate and we can build our own logos and edit our own images and stuff like that. But what DALL-E 3 actually allows you to do is it allows you to generate images. And when we're talking about images, I mean, these are ultra high quality, insanely good graphics images, or to however you kind of want them to look based on a textual input. And to me that's crazy, because I've spent a lot of time in the kind of design world, making things like logos and photo editing, video editing, and all of that sort of stuff. So to see this kind of come to life and see what you can actually do in the space of 20 seconds to what would usually take probably the best part of a couple of hours to make some of the things that I've seen being outputted on this DALL-E 3 Copilot engine is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that stood out for me as well, Connor, but for slightly different reasons. And I know we will look at the wider sort of the wider kind of building blocks that they want to offer us. But it was one that stood out for me because we use Midjourney all the time, just because it does what you described there, Connor. It takes away the need. I'm not a skillful artist at all, but it will do that thinking for me. I can't draw isometric images on a computer, but it will do that for me. But the challenge I always have with Midjourney is shifting context. I have to go to Discord and I have to put a prompt into Midjourney, which I have to think about. And generally, Mark and I do a lot of this. Fraser does quite a bit as well. We'll copy previous prompts and we'll use those prompts and just change the words slightly. But you've shifted context. You've got to have a bit of skill with prompt engineering, and that's wonderful. But then the artifact you've got to get, you save it to your desktop and you bring it into your blog post that you're doing or to whatever. But the idea with DALL-E is that I don't know why I accentuated the E there, Connor. I really don't know. Anyway, the idea is that it's all in the flow of work. So we'll come on to how Bing's going to be more integrated and all that good stuff. But yeah, it seems we've got to wait to get hands-on, of course, and we will do a bit of a hands-on next week, I think. It seems to be more in the flow of work. And the big thing, and whether this is anecdotal or true, there's a lot of sort of negative vibe towards DALL-E as a model to create images, because it used to just create rubbish, a lot of people have said. But the things we saw on Thursday seem to suggest that it's really got some improvements. I think it's the version 3 of the model. It's way better.
Version 4 for
is it version 4? Is it
3.5 for DALL-E?
Yeah, so I'm gonna guess that the reason that they called out the fact that it's now really good at shadows, eyes, and fingers is the fact that to this point it probably couldn't do shadows, eyes, and fingers. So they've really enhanced it. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a big thing to kind of point out there as well is when we think about image generation, and they announce way more than what DALL-E 3 can offer. And when it comes to kind of image generation, we often think of, I don't know, let's say for example, like a 2D, a drawing, a cartoon, like that sort of thing that we can kind of pull out of DALL-E. But DALL-E is now able to create full 3D designs, which means, like you say, you do get that kind of that shading, that accurate lighting, and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, just on this kind of image generation, I just wanted to kind of point out another tool that's kind of being made readily kind of available already, that you can kind of make use of, and that is Adobe Firefly. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody's familiar here with the Adobe suite. Who here has used anything Adobe? So Illustrator, Photoshop, perhaps you've used Premiere Pro for video editing, After Effects for graphics design. Okay, so yeah, so then you'll obviously know that like these things take time to build. Rush for Video, that's the mobile application, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, you'll know that these things take time to kind of produce images that you want. And I think one of the big things that Adobe's done is they've adopted this kind of Copilot technology and made it kind of integratable with your kind of Microsoft 365 environments as well. And they've actually introduced what's called content aware things that you can add. I keep calling them things because I don't really know how else to describe them at the moment. But essentially, what you can do with content aware is you can plug an image into Adobe Firefly, and you can tell it to remove objects. You can tell it to add objects. You can say, for example, let's say, for example, I took a screenshot of John as he stood in his shed at the moment, and I said, okay, let's put a red dress
log
on
cabin,
John.
Connor. It's not a shed. It's got thick walls and heating and insulation. But carry on.
We'll call it a cabin.
Okay,
Yeah,
you call it cabin. Yeah.
Let's say, for example, we took a picture of John, and you can see him in his nice Collab365 hoodie, and let's go, okay, let's do a content aware now. Using this image, we want to make John wear a dress with flowers on it. It can do that in an almost instant, and they look, from what I've experienced and seen, they look ultra realistic. Like you'd have to really kind of focus on the pixels in the image to really go, okay, that's AI generative imaging that's going on there.
But believe it or not, I went on a university reunion this weekend, and some photos came out from, and I hesitate to say this, 30 years ago when we were at university, and there was some photos not dissimilar to John in a dress with flowers. So you know, Valerie, maybe one day you will see that. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you've just touched on something there that caught my eye, and that is another reason why I find Midjourney as an external tool fantastic, but also quite awkward. It's getting there a little bit, but in Midjourney, for example, you can select pieces of your image and ask that to be replaced. So if you don't want a lady in the middle of your image, for example, you'd like a creature or an animal or a man or a person, whatever, you can ask Midjourney to do that. But what they are suggesting is that you can do that much more easily with the new image generation with Copilot. You'll be able to conversationally say, change those colors. I don't like blue, I want red. Change that central character, put it to the left. Now, again, it will be the proof will be in the pudding, to coin a phrase, and we'll be able to have a go with that.
Yeah, just on that as well. So obviously, I mentioned Firefly as the kind of main backing tool that allows you to be able to do stuff like this. But I also thought it's important to point out that, and a lot of you will be absolutely blown away by this, because we all know how awful this tool is. But Paint, the typical Paint that we know from Microsoft.
Paint got a showcase event, Connor. Paint shouldn't have a showcase event.
But yeah, all of this kind of content aware generative imaging is going to be available in Paint as well, and because Windows Copilot will be allow you to kind of plug straight into to your Windows applications, you can do all of this sort of stuff in Paint as well. So you can drag images in, you can select regions of an image that you want to replace. Perhaps you want to completely change the backdrop and make it look like you're on Mars or something. It's going to be able to do all that sort of stuff as well. So again, you don't need any expensive software to be able to do this.
No.
It's also important to point out as well that as far as I'm aware, Copilot is going to be free.
That's a very good point, Connor. Yeah, that is a really, really valuable point. It's yeah. I have a slightly different perspective on it in a moment I'll share, but yeah, so we should get it as part of an update tomorrow, shouldn't we? That's the it would have been lovely if we had it today, and I know that Fraser's had the early access, which I believe seems to have been removed. He can't use it anymore, but yeah, we'll get it for free tomorrow during the day at some point.
Yeah, just on that as well, if you are looking to get that update tomorrow, one thing that you can do, a lot of people forget that this is an option. If you go to your Windows icon on a Windows PC and you go to the settings, and if you go down to Windows Update at the bottom, you can do a check for updates, and that will hopefully bring you back the latest updates. But yeah, I don't know what time exactly it's going to be released. It could be something that is rolled out over a few days. I'd imagine that'd be very intensive on their servers if everybody was downloading it at once. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I will just say, this is we will come on to the showcase, the digest next week, and I think subject to us getting to grips with some of this, we'll have a play. If there's anything particular you're interested in, and we are going to talk more about some of the features, let us know, and we can always try and showcase some of the capabilities. You see it on stage with Satya and the product managers showing you these wonderful videos that are beautifully streamlined, but we always like to give the reality of it. We use these tools, so we'll use them on your behalf and we'll have a little play. I mean, Sydney's. Sorry, go on, Connor.
Yeah, I was just gonna quickly drop back to Mark's question, or he says not to stray, but is anyone using Microsoft Designer? So again, that was something else that was announced as well during the showcase. That again, I'm not sure if anybody's used this, but has anybody used? I'm trying to think what it's called now. There was an Adobe product, and I can't remember the name of it, but it basically allowed you to create things like headers and flyers, publications, and all of that sort of thing, and really kind of design things nice and easily. But I think again, that's going to be kind of heavily. I think it's called InDesign.
InDesign is definitely a tool. There was what you've described there as well, to do the whole flyers and the A4 letters. There was another tool that allowed you to do that, but you're right. I think it's called InDesign.
Yeah. InDesign and InCopy. But yeah, Microsoft have announced as well Microsoft Designer, which is essentially going to compete with that. Now, from what I've seen from the demos, it doesn't look as extensive as to some of the things you can do with the Adobe suite. We all know Adobe Suite is all about creativity and design and stuff. So I think they're part of the way there. But yeah, Microsoft is really kind of, I think, come into town with these new applications. So Microsoft Designer is going to kind of, hopefully, or we'll see it very soon, start replacing, I think, a lot of their competitors in that space. And I think it's also worth pointing out as well about Microsoft Clipchamp, which I believe is going to get fairly close to replacing things like Premiere Pro and Camtasia and all that, some of the kind of video editing software that we used to use as well. And just again on that Clipchamp, all of this generative AI stuff is going to be readily available in there. So it can, I think they showed a demo, didn't they, where somebody had a bunch of video files that they wanted to kind of put together and make a little quick video edit for a social media post, and using AI prompts, written prompts, they were able to put together, I think, was it a 30-second complete video edit with captions and stuff in about a minute, I think it took, which is really impressive.
It is, and I mean, a lot of these things, like the back, I'm just going in the general image world, the background removal, the generative change of images, they're all things that have been in and around the world for probably a year or maybe a little bit more in some cases. But yeah, I think it's that idea of bringing it all together. Microsoft have almost got to a critical mass now where they've started to accumulate the capabilities to do all these things and now want to offer it in one place. So it's going to be a very interesting time for the creative industry, I guess. I'm sure there will be differences of the tools that they might use in the true creative industry, but for us, as you know, we're app makers, we're not. I don't have any graphic design capabilities. It's given us a lot more capability to do, hopefully, some cool looking stuff. I would love to gather opinion, right? So for me, what you've described there is fantastic, Connor, but you mentioned something in there about having that kind of ability to cross across applications. And one of the things that Satch is talking about in the whole theme of this is that it's your everyday AI companion. Really hard to say, everyday AI. But bringing everything together, and he talks about this paradigm shift that Microsoft wants to create. And I know it's great marketing speak, but actually there is something very real going on to me anyway, in that we had personal computers, we had ZX81s and Spectrums, and then we had the web, which was a thing we could use through scratchy modems, and then that became, well, we've got cloud and we've got broadband and we've got that step change in our capability into mobile. And what Satya was sharing was Microsoft vision now to use this natural language interface that they've acquired with these kind of rational models to create access to everything that we might interface with as human beings, like computers, phones, whatever, but give it an awareness of everything that we're doing and using. And I don't know about anybody on this call, but for me, I personally start to get a little bit squeamish. There's one particular one stood out for me. I don't know if anyone noticed this one, but in Outlook the ability to it will understand what's going on in your desktop life. You've got events coming up, you've got a piece of Word document that you've been creating, but you might want to create an email, and it's got this concept of sound like me. So it will draft an email for you in Connor's voice, is Connor's tone. And I don't know about you, but that scares the life out of me. I don't ever feel comfortable with it, to be honest with you. I know we all give our data away. That's what we do.
I think that was the kind of thing that kind of hit me a little bit. Was, I mean, I know that there's people out there that are very kind of concerned over the kind of privacy of their data, but I think I've kind of come to the kind of conclusion, or what's the word I'm looking for? I've kind of just accepted, I think, that we are being tracked all over the place in many different apps. I mean, it's not just Microsoft that are able to kind of monitor the things that we are doing. Whenever we log into Facebook, they're tracking our every click. They're tracking what pages we visit, so we can be targeted with ads. When we go to Google, they're tracking our searches, so they know how to best, again, sell us things via ads and all of that sort of stuff. So like, I'm very aware that everything I do is being tracked in some form on the internet, and I think I've just kind of come to that acceptance personally, that I'm happy for them to just do what they do. Hopefully that they are in compliance with the right laws and regulations and stuff. I mean, we don't always know if that's the case. I'd love to believe so. But yeah, I think I don't really have a kind of full-on opinion about it in that sense personally. Maybe from a kind of from like a work point in life, where maybe you have sensitive documents and things that you are a bit more concerned about keeping private. You need to comply with GDPR and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, I'd love to know how they kind of manage it that way. But I think from a kind of personal experience, if Windows 11 is tracking some of the behaviors that I do on my computer, I'm personally not going to be too phased by that, because I think the technology in itself is so innovative, or it's going to be, that I'm just excited to see what Microsoft kind of bring to the table in this sense.
Yeah, I think that's a very grown-up attitude to it. And I mean, and you said exactly the same, that the toothpaste is out of the tube. And you, I think you're right. I flip-flopped between the two, being slightly fearful of it and then being not fearful of it. I think there is this pitch that Microsoft has security and privacy at the forefront of its thinking. Again, the truth will be somewhere in between. We're being a bit naive, and it actually is really good. And I think, yeah, you're probably right that there's so much about us that's out there now anyway. It's the cost of computing. It's the cost of consuming these technologies. I'm just going to have a quick scan of the text and see what the general kind of vibe is from people on this call, what their thoughts are. Yeah, okay, so Delve, yeah, so it's already out there. Data's already there within the Microsoft ecosphere. I don't know if that's the word.
Ecosystem.
Why not ecosphere? Why is it system? Not anyway.
Come to the weekly digest and learn brand new words that don't
brand
exist.
New words that John and Connor just made up, mostly John in his Babbleathon. Yeah, it is. It's interesting. But I suppose the flip side of that is, if we're paying for huge leaps in productivity and less stress and capability that we didn't have before, with a bit about us, I think I'm probably going to be fine with that, because that's what it's going to create, isn't it? It's going to create a huge ability. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it, to be honest. Specifically, the Microsoft 365 Copilot angle of it, where it's talking about the new Outlook being joined to Word and PowerPoint and all of that, and you can use this whole thing to create artifacts seamlessly. Yeah, so interesting. What else? Was there anything else that stuck out for you, Connor?
Yeah, I've got just quite a few things actually that's still left on my list. So I'm just kind of curious. I just kind of want to see what people's thoughts are on this. So first of all, is anybody in the chat today? Are any of them in the kind of educational, teaching, learning industry? Whether you do the sort of thing that we do, we make some training videos. Do you teach a class of pupils? Is anybody in that sort of space, or perhaps you have children that are currently in school? Because just on a Steve's thing, I don't think Copilot will be available for Windows 10. It's my belief that earlier this year, I think it was May, that they stopped. I think they announced that they were doing security patches for Windows 10, but they weren't making any further developments to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I'm just having a look through the chat. So do the kind of things you do, but not with 40,000 people now. We don't quite have 40,000 people yet.
We have a big list of people who are interested. We have 10,000 people in the academy, which is lovely.
Yeah, the reason I kind of ask is because something really kind of took my eye, and I can't remember who was presenting at the time. Satya brought on quite a few different presenters to discuss different topics, but one that caught my eye was the fact that the way that you can solve things like maths equations directly inside a Copilot. You can solve maths equations or general questions based off of images. For example, I think one of the things that they used is they had a graph with some data in it, and the woman that was presenting, she grabbed a screenshot of this graph and information and asked Copilot to calculate something, and it was able to recognize the image and do the calculations. And the kind of reason that it puzzles me, because I mean, I've been away from kind of education now in terms of school and in college for over 10 years now. Over 10 years, and obviously I remember how school used to be. Some of you here are probably older than I am, so you'll definitely know how the kind of school system works, and nothing's really changed in the last 100 years, I believe, in terms of the way schools are teaching and curriculum and all of that sort of thing. So I just want to kind of open this up for discussion about how do people think that this new AI technology is going to kind of affect the way people learn in things like schools and perhaps maybe our industry as a training academy. Curious to see kind of what people think. Does anyone have any thoughts on that they'd like to share with the group? Because I mean, I think the whole schooling system is due a kind of change in the way it works. Personally,
I'll make sure I don't play this bit out to my wife, who's a teacher. It has undergone a lot of change, but you're absolutely right, Connor. The capability that we're putting at the fingertips of learners is different now, certainly from this year forwards to what it was prior. It was very much books, knowledge, learning. You as a human being have to create the artifacts, create the knowledge to fulfill the brief, whereas that level of creation is changing. You'll be able to give it inspiration and get the response back, won't you? My son's already done it, to be honest. He did a PowerPoint recently with some input from AI, and he absorbed the knowledge. He knew what it was giving him, but equally he didn't have to go and really think about and process it, which is where there's a slight shift in the actors.
Yeah, I think
prompt engineering, exactly.
Your wife's a teacher, and that's not me kind of in no means. I don't want to kind of put down anything that's wrong with the kind of schooling system at the moment. I just think that
plenty
that this whole kind of like new AI world that we're stepping into is definitely going to kind of change the behavior of people learning things, and and kind of exploring new tools and systems and things that are available to them.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it will give change, and the school systems are already changing now, because if you look at, this is the UK, okay, so I can't speak for any other countries, but in the UK we have quite a changed set of learning that's happening for teachers joining the system now versus, of course, teachers joining the system 30 years ago. I think now, as people join, they will be well versed in these technologies. You would expect will adapt to that, and it'll just create a change. I think learning will become different, and different's not always bad. Perhaps it will create some improvements. I don't know.
Yeah, I think again, many of you have probably heard me talking about this over previous sessions in the past. But I think again, I'm still blown away by what AI can do for me in terms of things I don't know, and help me and assist me. For example, I'm able to, again, I think like Valerie, I think it was Valerie that mentioned earlier that it's not always accurate. It needs to be vetted for accuracy. But it gives you a very good starting point to kind of solve problems. And I've used it numerous times to solve particular formulas in Power Apps. As a kind of Power Apps advocate, you know that I spend a lot of time there, and sometimes I can't figure out the right formula, and AI is able to kind of help me with that. And again, this is all going to be available inside of Microsoft 365 Copilot on November the 1st, when that part of Copilot is released.
Yeah, I find it strange they're coming out in two slices, but I guess there's the home and there's the cloud, which kind of makes sense, I guess. I'm totally with Anand on that. I mean, that's where my brain is. And this is what I believe for this current state we're in, is that it's called Copilot. It's called artificial intelligence because you can't treat it as the real truth. Your truth is you're overlaying human context onto the information that's given to you. We're driving it rather than the reverse. So trust but verify. I completely agree with that. That's how I feel. Get the information that's going to support you, as you said there, Connor. Get that stuff to help you, but use your own nous and your own noggin. And hopefully that's probably where the ideas about prompt engineers are arriving from, because we will need to drive this stuff. Maybe at some point it will start to drive itself, but yeah, I think prompt engineering could become a very interesting new form of science or computer science.
Yeah, and again, just on the whole kind of prompt engineering side of things, Microsoft are already releasing things to help us with that. And again, at this event, which yeah, I think I will try and arrange a watch party
really cool,
for next week for this, because I think some of the information is portrayed much better than perhaps we can kind of give you. I mean, we're here to kind of voice our opinions and allow you lot to kind of voice your opinions. But yeah, one thing that they did mention as well in terms of this prompt engineering side of things is the Copilot Lab, which I believe is available already, which is essentially similar to the sort of tools that you get with the like the kind of adaptive card designers and stuff. You can go in there and you can kind of figure out really kind of all of these interesting and dynamic prompts that you can use for Copilot to be able to give you very dynamic responses. Because I think one thing that Mark has seen more so than probably anyone here at Collab365 is the fact that prompts make all the difference. For example, let's say we decide that we would like to write a blog post. It can be somewhat accurate, saying, yes, I'd like to write a blog post on perhaps a beginner's guide to Power BI or Power Apps or whatever it might be. And yes, Copilot or the AI system will be able to generate you a blog post based on a beginner's guide to Power Apps. But if you want to go like really deep into accuracy, there's a bunch of different types of prompts, and perhaps there's a different style of language that you'd like the response to be kind of portrayed in, and all of that sort of thing. So there's many different kind of prompts and inputs that you can kind of give AI to really get the maximum value back out of its response. But yeah, Copilot Lab, I'll try and dish you out a link while John's
that'd be interesting, that
talking.
So we're closing in towards the hour mark, aren't we, Connor? So I do want to wrap up very briefly in a moment with just that offer, as I said, as to how you can get yourself onto the small group of beta testers, I'll call it, for step up. But there was one other thing that I did notice, and this is of more interest to us and our Microsoft 365 tenant than some of these other things. But the idea that we'll be working very soon with Bing Chat in an enterprise context, so bringing all that into our domain. Yes, accessing the data that we have about our work and our processes and our agreements and all that stuff. But I think that's going to unlock some really good insights for business if we can get over that security concern and that data privacy concern. But I guess the idea of it being inside our tenant anyway could just really unlock some interesting insights. So I'm definitely excited to play around with that. I'll be interested to see how you expose it, because I know tools like Syntex, for example, and I forget the name, Viva, not Viva, it was probably Viva Insights. There were challenges with exposing the right data to those tools. I'm sure they're great, but I'm interested how Bing Chat Enterprise is going to do it. How will it know about our context and our data in the context of a 365 tenant? That's going to be very interesting to set up as an admin. So yeah, it'd be good to play with that.
My guess is that it's the same way that profiles work in, for example, Edge. I believe that, I mean, we're all logged into our Windows computers on using a Microsoft account nowadays. I don't think you can do it via any other way. Anybody that has Windows has a Microsoft account in some form. I believe that it's all going to be linked in that way. So your Edge will need to be logged in with the correct login details, and my guess is then that all of the kind of technologies that you'll use inside a Copilot will be interlinked in that sort of way.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, isn't it? So yeah, like I say, we'll come back, we'll circle back on this next week, and we'll have a look at what we've discovered. Amongst other things, I'm sure the world will have moved on by next week, so we'll start to pick on some other topics as well. But hey, look, I mean, I hope that was interesting. I've enjoyed chatting to you, Connor, about Copilot and sort of your thoughts on it. Really enjoyed hearing other people's thoughts on it as well. So I hope that's been interesting for you. If there are any particular topics you'd like us to go and have a prod around with next week on your behalf, then let us know. Before we wrap up, I do just want to say one thing then. So I mentioned at the very beginning, we've finished off the Power Automate Step Up. It is still very much in its pre-launch state, but all of the content that I'd like to give to you as part of it is ready. It's structured, so you can access it and you can go through it and you can pass the quiz. Now, excuse me, my son's just shooting at the shed / log cabin with one of these airsoft guns, and I'm going to have to go and tell him not to in a minute. But yeah, so it's all structured, and I'd love to invite people to first of all, just to give us a little bit of feedback about how the Academy is for you, because we're always learning and adapting, and we would love to know what your thoughts are about the Academy and your experience with it, whether you've just joined us today, you've been here for a week, you've been here for a year. It's all really important to us, and we don't ask often enough. So I'm going to put a link in the moment for a form, which I'd love you to fill in. It'll just give us a little bit of insight. It's all completely anonymous. However, if you'd like to then answer the last question on it, to grab hold of this free course in Power Automate, I will need an email address. Now, that's not to say I'll associate that with the questions and the answers. I just would need to be able to contact you to put you in the pile and then say, yeah, you've got one of those 10 spaces. But I need nothing else from you other than that. It'll be a free course for you, and I'll just ask for your feedback. So I'm just going to pop that into the chat right now. And yeah, just go to that link. It's anonymous. It shouldn't ask you for any data. You can fill it in anonymously. Or equally, if you want to get in touch with Connor and I just privately and say, look, this is what I think to the Academy. This is what I think you could do more of. This is what I need from you. Let us know, because we're on a learning curve and we'd love to try and support you as best we can. So yeah, have a go. Give it your time. And what we'll do is I'll probably leave that open for, I'll paste it as well into the recording space, the space where this post will be linked from. I'll probably open it for about a week. I think I'll shut it before the call next week, and then I'll let those people know who've made the final 10, whether I've been able to give it to you. But Linda, to answer your question, what I'll do is I'll shut the entries next week. I'll do a random number generator. I'll pick 10 people from the list, assuming there's more than 10. And from that point, I'll just ask you to take the challenge. What I would love to get is some feedback inside sort of a fortnight. So think about that as well. Just gives me that ability to iterate on it quickly and get it out there for the masses, hopefully very soon. So yeah, probably about a fortnight you'd need to be doing the challenge within. I hope that answers the question. Anything more from yourself, Connor, for today before we wrap up?
No, that's it from me.
Cool. Well, look, thanks everyone. Lovely to have you all here today. This isn't recorded per se, but what I will do is when you look at the events calendar, in fact, I will just share that for everybody. Let me just share my screen, if I may. I'll pick the right one. If you go to the events calendar, you will see there are upcoming events. You will see past events. If you want to watch this when it's become past, there will be a link inside this post in the past events to our YouTube video area. That'll get you to it. In general, if we've got something hosted inside the Academy, you'll also be able to find the link in the post itself there. So for example, I think this one's been done. If not, yes, it has. You'll be able to access Ben's session via that events calendar. And to answer the question about how do you get booked into future things, you look in this events calendar on the left-hand side and you can just click the RSVP buttons here. And that'll give you some reminders. And then once you've RSVP'd, we tend to give you reminders as well. So yeah, I think that's all I've got for today. Lovely to see everybody, and thank you for your feedback and your involvement. We'll see you on Friday. All of you. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
See ya. Take care.
Bye-bye.